dreams retire, we set them free, shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.
Hey there! Welcome to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. And today I have Alan McLaren from Strata Originals, and I'm super excited about talking to him today. He has a really great background of working in corporate and also being an entrepreneur. So we're going to learn some really good things from him today. So welcome, Alan.
Hey, Kim, I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. All right. I think we should just jump right in. Why don't you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Alan McLaren. I'm coming from you from the other side of the border in Canada, just outside Toronto. I'm originally from Montreal, which is a French and English province for those who want to learn that. I came up on the sales side of the house and then ended up running the last five businesses that I was part of. Some of it were appointed and others jobs I just got after a while. But the work I do today is really transformational work. I'm working in the personal branding space. But I have worked, as Kim said, in both corporate, in public, in private, in partnerships, and now entrepreneurship. And I'll tell you, the perspectives are different. As Kim, you would know as a coach, coaching a public CEO and coaching a private CEO, it's a different animal. And I hope to be able to share some of those expectations today and realities, and then share some of the personal branding wisdom that could be fun to talk about as well. So that's me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am excited. I think you're right. I think having the perspective of not just corporate, but also public and private, as well as entrepreneurship, I think there's just going to be some gems there, clearly. But my first question to you is my random question before we get into any of the other juicy stuff. What is the most sentimental gift you've ever received?
I actually have two, but I'll give you one because we could talk forever. So I actually got a beautiful Cutco knife from a friend of mine. But here's the sentimentality. He branded it with my wife and my name on it. So every time we go to cut vegetables, I think of him. So you want to talk about personal branding and marketing and sentimentality? That young man nailed it, and he's in my life every day because we're always cooking. So that was the best one.
Oh, that's so funny. You know what I thought, Alan, you were going to say? And I think of my wife every day.
Do anyways, because she's
Yeah.
listening. So I better say that. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's very fun. A Cutco knife. All right. Yeah. That was unexpected, but
There you go.
awesome. All right. So I'm curious, and I think you can answer these questions from your own experience because you've run a number of businesses. And also, since you do this personal branding coaching, you know a lot of business owners and CEOs and so forth. So you can give us whatever perspective you think there's a lesson for me and for the listener. What's a piece of conventional wisdom that you followed early on that you were like, this actually really is not such good advice for me in particular?
It's easy. It's you need a 5-year strategic plan.
Oh, say more about that.
Yeah, because in the old days, you could predict things. If you think about some of the Asian countries, they'll plan out 100 years sometimes. But businesses today, especially the uncertainty of today, you used to be ready, aim, fire, but today it's ready, fire, aim because speed matters now. Although you need to have a strategic plan in terms of your vision and your mission and where you want the company to be and how you envision it getting there, if every company I've ever seen has got the strategic plan sitting on the back and we never look at it again, if it's not part of your culture and part of who you are, and you know this as a coach, then we're just messing around and we're spending time on stupid things. So that's why I love those one pagers that are actionable. So you make a 3-year plan and you adjust. And as an entrepreneur, we have a plan, but if it doesn't change every quarter, not the macro goals, but the ways to get there, because you learn. So I would say that's the most unconventional, now conventional work that I've thrown out and I advise people on. Just do stuff. You can learn a lot by doing.
And this is probably an appropriate time to really bring in a conversation about AI. I mean, just think about the last 6 months, how much our life has changed.
Yeah.
If you can think out 3 to 5 years, you can still have your macro idea of what it is that you want to do, but We are at the infancy of AI in business.
We are. And Kim, I'll tell you how it relates to my business, and that might help people as they think through it. We do content development and help people with video. That stuff's going to go away very quickly. In fact, you could argue it's gone away now. So what we're doing as we build out our businesses, we're recognizing the tools and saying, what can we be forever? And what we believe we can be forever is when we connect with someone at the heart level and help them transform as human beings. AI can't do that because it can give you the words, but it's not going to touch you emotionally in the way that humans did. So we do this thing called the brand DNA, which is where people begin their transformation in personal branding, because personal branding is not just about content. It's about your transformation to be able to deliver content. So we're thinking about that going, okay, those two pieces of our business will disappear, but this part will not. So that's what a 5-year plan does, recognizing the realities of today and using the tools to make us more efficient. So that's how we're applying AI today.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I think about when you talk about that is I just actually did a goal setting workshop with an executive women online coaching program that I run, and we just did it very differently. I think there's two things that really come to mind around it, which is one, on a quarterly basis, if you are really striving to reach a goal, you shouldn't have more than one because the action items that you have to reach that goal, one of the biggest mistakes people make is they set 5 goals, like 5 business goals and 5 personal goals. And then they have to also live their life. You tell me how you can get all that done. You can't. So, what about setting a priority and then actually achieving that?
I think you've nailed it. It's part of the ready, fire, aim thing. So you set your goals, whether it's customer acquisition or pick something. Let's call it, I want to do 100 customers in a year. So that's on average 25 a quarter. But you also have to allow for what's going to happen in 26. So as we think about our business, we know we do a high touch business today of both personal branding coaching and development for clients, but we know we've got to get online and start building the work we're doing is also building towards 26. So we're not just starting, okay, now we're starting in 26. No, we're 3/4 of the way there. Now we're implementing in 26. So you still have to be able to plant the seeds for the future. And that's how we're looking to build it. And we're having fun building, as they say, you're building it while you're flying the plane a lot of times. And so
Yeah,
we're building it while we're flying it as well. And
right,
I think you have to do that today. It's so hard to
right.
just be plodding and methodical. So I love your approach of one goal and knock it out of the park is the other way.
Yeah, and so, Alan, let me just ask you, because you've also run businesses, is there anything just in terms of any advice that somebody gave you early on, or maybe you looked at a mentor, or even if you had business people in your family and you thought, okay, that's what it is, that's what I have to do in order to be successful, and then you've kind of like, maybe not so much.
So I had to learn really early what I was good at because as a leader, you recognize you can't do everything. And in fact, you're not good at everything. And so what I realized early on was that I was not real good on the financial side of the house. So I brushed up on my skills so I could have great conversations with my CFO and ask great questions of my CFO, but I didn't have to know how to do the spreadsheet or work out the percentages. That's one thing. The second part, which was the most important, is I lead with my heart on everything I do. It's obvious, but I also lead with my heart when I'm running a business, whether it's a public business or a private business, because that's who I am.
Mm,
So if I'm trying to put on a hat and say, today I'm going to be tough CEO guy, when in fact I can be heart leading CEO guy that has to make tough decisions for the business. I had one business, the public business I ran quickly. I'll tell you a story where I came in and I took it over after 3 months, discovered some nasty things going on in the business, had to fire 175 people. I fired each human being myself. That was the hard part, right? Each one of the 175 that I had to fire understood why I was terminating them. So it wasn't a big surprise. But that was not easy to do. But I had to do it for the survival of the business, but I could do it with heart as opposed to being tough and mean, which there was no calling for. So that's what I learned about myself is be real, be authentic, and then that'll carry you through everywhere because to tie it to my personal branding word, it's reputation is all you have and you
Right.
have it forever. So be authentic early, know where you're strong, and where you are weak, brush up enough so you can be competent at it, not necessarily excel at it.
And Alan, although the second point was just gave me chills. I wanted to jump out of my seat. But I want to get back though to something that you said the first point because man oh man, you brushed it under the rug, but I'm telling you, I think it is fire. What you said is I realized early on that I'm not great at the financials. And then you said something that was just key. So I learned how to ask better questions of the CFO.
Yes.
Not I abdicated to somebody else, not, oh, not my responsibility. I don't want to know, but knowing yourself well enough to know that this is important. I
Yeah.
can't ignore this. I need to know enough to ask better questions about this so that I get the information without having to delve into the details.
Yeah, because over 30 years, I've now gotten a lot better at that. But at the beginning, I recognized it was something I was not good at. To your point, asking great questions is the skill of a great leader because oftentimes we have the answers in everything. I know 90% more than everybody else, but that's not the point. The point is they have to develop, they have to learn, they have to grow. So I have to ask them the question, even though I know the answer, so they can come up with the answers. And that's where I think it's really magical.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So, as a successful leader, what's one thing that people think that you've got everything figured out, but what's one thing that you still wrestle with?
There's two things I wrestle with. One is entrepreneurship is stressful, and people would think I got it going on. It's tough. There are sleepless nights, and there are moments that you just sit there and put your hand in your head and go, wow, are we going to get through this? And then you rely on your resilience skills, which you've developed over time, and recognize you always get through them. You always get through them. It's never as bad as you think it's going to be. It never materializes where you want. But as a human, that's something that I still have and struggle with. The other one, Kim, which is I tend to overwhelm people and not in a mean way. I can take in lots and I can give out lots, but then I recognize that not everybody can receive lots. And I can see it when clients are glazing over, when I'm trying to give them the details of what I want to do. They don't really care about the details. They just said, hey, plant the tree, Alan. I don't care how deep you're going, how much shovel you're using. So I have to always check myself to make sure the person receiving the information is what they need. So those are the two things that I would say I continue to evolve at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the idea of being able to quote unquote read the room, I think is very useful and I think sometimes very difficult skill when you have a very different style than
Yeah.
the person who is receiving the information. And I would say that a lot of my coaching practice is about helping people understand because at the end of the day, it is about influence,
Yes, it is.
right?
Yeah.
If you are giving people information in a way that they can't receive it, then everybody misses the value, right? Everybody misses the opportunity. And so I do think it is challenging, right? There's a mindfulness about it that I think is very difficult sometimes.
It's incredibly difficult because if you think about this, you get stuff come at you all day long. And now I think with the advent of working from home, which our business does, all of our team works from home. But I'll just remember back to my office when people would come in and knock on the door, and this is how I'd respond to them. Yeah, yeah. And I'd have my phone in my hands. When I recognized, hey, Alan, I need 2 minutes. Great. 2 minutes. They had 2 minutes. And I gave them 2 minutes and I listened for 2 minutes. Even though my brain was off somewhere else, for those 2 minutes, I was mindful because you learn as a leader, they're coming for you for a reason. It's reassurance or praise or whatever it happens to be. So I've learned that phone goes down when someone comes in. And by the way, for those of you in marriages, that's a good idea too.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I am a big let's find the answer person, right? I just love Googling things and now chat GPTing things, right? Like I love to find the answer. And what's very funny is that I have three kids, and one of my kids in particular, if I pick my phone up, even like to try to find the answer to what we're talking about, she's
Yeah.
like, Mom, put your phone down.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, I
Wow.
get in so much trouble. I'll tell you.
Listen, there's a third one. This is an addiction, and you need to realize you have it. I have it 100%, but I try to be more mindful and say, okay, when we're doing something else, just focus on the human in front of you because that's what matters.
Right. Yeah. Which I think is a very important thing. And we all see it all the time, right? And maybe we have it in our own families where people are with each other, but not really with each other. And I think there is something very valuable about what you said, which is just being present. And it's even more difficult because of the remote nature of a lot of the work that we do.
Correct.
Because guess what? I could hold my phone down here. You couldn't even see that I had it in my hands, right? And
That's
I can be distracted. Or here, right? The trick, and I know you do this, right? Is that you look at the camera straight ahead and you've got your documents or your email or stuff like up on your computer, and it looks like you're looking at the other person or in a meeting and not paying any attention.
100% right.
Yeah,
It's a new world, but the words you use is communication. It's all about impact, communication, influence. So you have to influence your team to do good things. You can tell them what to do, for sure. They don't grow when you tell them. They grow when they tell you how to solve a problem. And it's really hard when you know the answer. But
right.
we're teaching people so they get better, so they don't need you as much over time.
That's excellent. So, if you could rewrite the rule book on leadership, what's one outdated belief that you'd throw out and what would you replace it with?
Yeah, it's the easiest question you'll ever ask me. Command and control is a myth. It lasts about a week. And then you have people that will do what you want to do, and you may grow your business and things, but no one's going to be happy. So, really, at the end of the day, it comes back to servant leadership. At the end of the day, my job as a leader, I don't care if I founded the business, is to clear the deck for other people to do their job. Make their lives not easier necessarily, but easier to get the job done. Whether it's creating a process that allows them to do it right,
Mhm.
or hiring the right people, or getting the right technology. That is my job. I am there to serve them and lead them. The occasion is, of course, if the ship is sinking, it's not time to go, what do you think? No, we're going that way, follow me. There's that. But the majority of the time, your job is to serve them so they can serve the customers and treat them and delight them. So that's where I would say that's an outdated belief, but there are still a lot of leaders that I work with that are in that world because they don't know anything different. It's very comfortable for them,
Right.
but it's not effective. And I see it right in front of them. Right.
Mhm. When you say command and control, would another way for that is like top-down leadership? Like, is that
Um, it's authoritarian leading, meaning I don't really care what you think. I'm going to ask you, but here's what's happening. You see those leaders in a meeting of 10 executives, and the only person talking in the room is the president or the CEO. That's not leadership. Leadership is you should know who's the leader in that room. It's real leadership because they're listening and they're taking notes. Because leadership is developing other leaders. I get people that say, I have no time for personal branding. I said, then you're a crappy leader. I said, what do you mean? And I can talk to them because I got the gray hair, right? So I said, because your job as a CEO is to lead others. You have a lot of work, but you take on a lot of work that you shouldn't take on. Your job is to lead your six executives. That's your job and be the focal point for the business and vision and mission. But you hire the right people to do that work. So you're freed up to do the really good work, future looking, which is what most CEOs do. But I would say most of them are really poor at it because of that reason.
yeah, that in terms of do things that really other people should be doing, I deal with that all the time. That control piece is so hard for any leader to get rid of, right? And to trust that,
Just nailed it. Trust. To
right?
trust that the work will be done. And maybe it won't be done the way you would do it the first time. And if it's the third time they don't have it right, you have the wrong person. We always talk about work-life balance, which doesn't exist in the real world. But the CEOs I talked to, I was talking to one the other day, he's already had his exit. He's doing great. Life is great. He says, I'm busier than I want to be. I said, that's your fault, isn't it? You don't know how to say no. He says, you're right. I said, so you're choosing to be busy because that's what you're comfortable doing.
Right.
If you want to work 30 hours a week, you can. Maybe because you don't have to work. So choose the things you want to do to make the impact you want to make. And you sit there going, can't they think of that themselves? They can't see the label from inside the jar. That's where coaches come in and give them, hey, listen, I'm not going to give you an answer, but I'm going to help you uncover your blind spot, which is this. You don't know how to say no, and you want to have family, you want to have your fitness, you want to have your spiritual life, whatever it is you choose that's important to you. It's all choices. Everything is a choice. How you run your business is a choice. So that's
Yeah,
what I would say.
I love that. What I often say when either I'm speaking or coaching is that my number one productivity tip is you can't manage time. And everybody looks at me and they're like, what? And I'm like, listen, everybody in the entire world has the same amount of time available to them, right?
Right.
24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. It is the same for every human on this earth. And so I often will tell people we use the word time management, but really what that should trigger for you is self management in
Yeah.
the context of time.
Yeah.
Because the moment that you start saying there's not enough time in the day, you've just given your power up.
Yeah.
So it is about choices, right? It's about the choices that you make in regards to how you spend your time.
Yeah. I'll give you an example that maybe be helpful to others. So I do yoga 4 to 5 times a week. It's become part of the stress management. It's part of all the good things in my life. I schedule that for 4:30 every single day, Monday through Friday. Now, that is sacred time for me. So we're going to end our podcast at 4 o'clock. I've got my shorts there. I'm ready to go. The only time I make exceptions for that is when my clients in California need to see me and we can't do it time before. Then I make an exception. So people say, how can you do 4 times a week? I work from 7 till 4 and then I'm done. And then I go to yoga and then I start my evening. So time blocking and keeping it sacred and then making changes when you have to, as opposed to I'll just see what happens because I could fill that time like that.
Of
But I
course.
don't because that's important to my mental health, physical health, and being around for my wife and for my kids and for my team. Health matters. So I have to prioritize that. That's what I do to manage time and achieve the goals that I have set up for myself on the fitness side.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. That's very helpful. So, what's one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow your business, even though it might not be what people would typically say to do?
I just think speed matters and not vacillating about decisions. I think I've become so action oriented. I had one this morning and the action was this quick. I had the idea, I popped into ChatGPT and it said, you want me to create a video for you? Yes, create the script. I recorded the video just before talking to you, a 2 minute video on this problem. And I have a meeting tomorrow with my business partner to see how we're going to incorporate it into the website. So within 24 to 48 hours, idea to implementation. That is what makes a business successful today because everybody else is going, let's have a meeting. Let's get it approved. Let's get everybody's input. Let's know there's some things you just got to move on. So that's the what I believe. And part of the problem is I don't think everybody likes to move that fast. But my job as a leader is to say, no, speed matters. Let's do it. And then we can adjust. If we
Hmm.
get it wrong, we can change the words. We're not a public company where we have to worry about press release. We have now that you got to do because that's public market stuff. Different way to think. Entrepreneurs go, and it's a fun way to implement because with my business partner in 18 months, if we haven't made 40 changes to our website, we've not made one. And we're doing do more this week because we're learning about what resonates. So that's why I'd say speed matters.
Love that. And then the other thing I think that you're saying as well is evaluate, which is another important piece is that get the data, the engagement is, and then make decisions based on that. It's interesting. I was listening to AI Driven Leaders by Jeff Woods, and he was telling the Blockbuster story,
Yeah, yeah,
which I think a lot of us know, which is that they just refused. And by the time they decided that they were going to pivot, this little upstart Netflix came along and said, okay, we're not going to charge late fees and we're going to change the business model. And Blockbuster said, no, we are committed to our business model. And by the time they went to change, it was too late,
yeah,
right? They dismissed, and obviously they don't exist anymore. And that's a behemoth, right? We're talking about huge. But I do think right now, the climate in the business world is moving very quickly. And I think those companies and business models that are really stuck in the past and they aren't agile are at risk.
yeah. You watch the fintech startups are going to eat the lunch of the big banks. They've got a lot of capital, the big banks, so they can ride it out for a while, but they're going to nip at their heels, and it's going to be very dangerous unless they become more nimble. You have to, because at the end of the day, the customer needs a loan, a credit card, a mortgage. It's not complicated, but the experience that you have in that world can be very complicated to try to apply for a credit card. One is 5 minutes, one might be half an hour with four phone calls. Wait a minute, it's the same credit card. What am I doing? So that's what I mean by speed matters in terms of your responsiveness to your customers and your business model to serve your customers. At the end of the day, it's always about that.
You know what I think will be interesting to see over time? I'm curious what you think about this. When you just said that, in terms of speed and efficiency, so many of these companies that have customer service are using bots these
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
And for me as a customer, I find it the most annoying,
okay,
awful experience.
yeah,
And I'm not sure what the future holds in regards to that. Maybe the bots get better, but it's very frustrating to have to spend 5 minutes to just get to a human.
yeah. I know exactly where it's going
Okay,
because
tell
I've
us.
experienced it. You know how you can ask me a question and I'll answer it? That's where the bots are going. Hi, Kim. Thank you for calling. I recognize that you have this credit card with us, and they'll know you
Yeah.
better than you know yourself. And so you're not a bot looking for one, two, three, and then, oh, I can't help you. You need to speak to a person. They're going to know you. And I don't know if you've had a chance to personalize your Chat GPT or your Claude or any of them. But when they get to know you, they'll know, listen, as a coach, you should be thinking about it this way. And your three kids would not like that. That's what's happening. So that's where the bots will go. So it'll be just like having a conversation with a human, in fact, better because the bot's not going to be tired. The bot's going to know where all the data is. We're a little ways from getting there, probably a couple of years away, not much more. But that's going to be a whole new experience when I could say, hey, listen, I'm going to Hawaii. Find me the best way to go there. Look at the business class first. If they're over $5,000, then let's go to premium. And that's the conversation you have. And they come back with everything in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's going to be cool. And that can happen pretty well very soon, anyways.
Wow. On the one hand, it's cool because actually my Chat GPT does talk to me literally like the way that I
Oh,
talk. And it's very fun, but it's also like creepy.
yeah. Oh,
Both.
it's creepy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. God only knows. Like I've taken this conversation to the outer reaches of whatever, but let's get back to leadership just for a second. I want to talk to you a little bit about imposter syndrome
Sure.
because you're a very experienced business leader. And I think that no matter how much success you have, I think it always creeps up. And so I think it's really a two-part question, which is what situations or where does it tend to creep up for you? And then what do you do when it does?
So I have two answers for you. One is in the work that I do, because 90% have imposter syndrome. So I want to talk about that. But specifically for me, I'm a member of an organization called YPO, which is a global organization of CEOs. And I was fortunate enough to become international chairman about 9 years ago. When I was sitting on the board and chairing that board, I was looking around. I'm going, what happened here? They voted me in, a guy from Canada who's not run businesses that are in the billions, and I wanted to understand why. And I got the answer. And you know what the answer was? Everything that you've ever done, Alan, this is them talking to me, was about serving our members. It was never about you. And you always put us in a good place to succeed. So I was seen as a peer, even though the comparisons, if you were to look on paper, I should not be leading these, they were all men at the time. I should not be leading these men, but I was chosen as the leader of those men to run an organization of 30,000 or so members. So that taught me the lesson of comparison. That is the biggest danger a leader can have. Look, they have more than me. That business is bigger than me. That's death. And so that's what I learned about imposter syndrome for me. And then I got over it, and then it gave me confidence to be able to understand that my style of leadership works in the highest offices in the world. And then I started to realize, could you be a president of a company or a country? You could, because I've met some of those folks, and let's not talk about that. So, from my personal experience on the personal branding side, they're all terrified. They don't want to come across as inauthentic. No one will believe me, and imposter syndrome's alive and well. But what's really cool, Kim, is when they go from that terrified to the other side of that, where they're now producing content literally at the drop of a hat, their confidence goes up and they transform themselves because they get to a place where they recognize I had this fear, I overcame the fear, and now I'm able to shine on the other side. So all of them have it, but our job is to hold their hand, to get them over the line. And when they go over the line, they never look back.
Yeah, I like that idea of looking either at the steps that you've taken or the success that you've had. And sometimes, I don't know, maybe the best thing to say is, listen, I don't know why they have confidence in me, but if other people have confidence in me, then at least I can do is have confidence in myself.
It's not easy to sit there, but because you're comparing. That was what I was doing. I was saying, I'm comparing myself to their success. But what is success? Is success a number on a balance sheet? As I was growing up, I've always been very fortunate. My family life has been amazing. Kids are great. My wife, we've married 40 years. We love each other like we're teenagers. It's just beautiful. And I look around, go, you have 100 million in the bank, but you're not happy. I'm really happy. Always been happy. Doesn't mean life's perfect, but the death of comparisons are you're comparing what's not real.
Right,
So that's what I find imposter syndrome is comparing. It's
right.
feeling that you belong because you're only looking at yourself and going, what kind of story do I have? Let me tell you, leaders that I work with have stories, incredible stories of triumph, abuse, trauma. Pick something. And they get to a place where they don't recognize that all is what built them to a place where they have the resilience they need, the perspective they need to be great leaders, or to at least know that they have to improve on certain parts of their leadership. So imposter syndrome is not a bad thing, but you need to get over yourself. Because if you're a leader, you have a gift. Uncover it and get it out there. That's the work we do. And that's the most fun part of what we do.
It's interesting that you say that because sometimes when I personally get a little shy, I want to remind myself that I have a really important message to get out to the world. It's not for everybody, but for those people who need to hear it, they need to hear it. And if I play small, then they're not going to get what they need from me. And you could say the same thing for these leaders of these other companies, whether it's their future customers need something or whether they're the people who work for them need jobs and they need to be lifted up and they need to move on in their careers. So I think we have a big role to play in playing a bigger game and in not holding yourself back because somebody else can do it better or faster or whatever, right?
Yeah, the challenge is people think it's about them and it's not.
That's right.
When you learn that everything that's going to cause your happiness or fulfillment is about others. So, not knowing you that well, but I can tell you that you get your pleasure when your clients are doing great. I get my pleasure when they're transforming and building their lives and their teams. That's what gets me going. I don't care about accolades. My accolades are, Alan, thank you for helping me transform.
Absolutely.
That's my accolade. Yeah, I'm out there on a lot of videos, but it's not about me. It's about delivering a message of hope and transformation so people can transform and transform others, which is your message, right?
Exactly. Well, that sounds like the perfect place to end because of you as a listener out there. I really think there were some really big gems here for you to hear and to act on. Tell whoever needs to hear to listen to the podcast, like, subscribe, review, so that we can help other people move forward. And you said the magic word, right? It's all about transformation. And I think the last thing I really want to emphasize here, because I think it really is important, it's about making quick decisions and taking action. I think that was really important for people to hear, which is make it happen.
It
Make
happened.
it happen. All right. I love that. All right. This is Kim Miller-Hershon with Alan McLaren. Unconventional wisdom about conventional wisdom, where cliches come to retire and fresh thinking we inspire. Go out there, be a better human.
Cliches retire, we set them free. Shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.